Welcome, Obnoxious Brutes forum members, lifters and non-lifters alike. Also, I've got 20 or 25 new YouTube followers on the channel this week, so maybe some of them will tune in and watch this Q&A as well. This is the 6th weekly Q&A that I've done where I've taken questions from the members on Obnoxious Brutes and had a pretty good time doing it. It's summer break for me. A lot of you guys know I'm a teacher. It's summer vacation, so I've got a little free time to mess around on the weekends and do these Q&As. So let's go ahead and get into it. We've got questions from Sand, Poppy_Chulo, Marmalade, LA Hipster, and I Am Determined. Sand wants to know, what's with the name Drew Darden and who is Jeremy Stevens? Jeremy Stevens is my name. Drew Darden, so the history is when I signed up for the bodybuilding.com forums many years ago, back in February of 2002, my name was Black Spit. And I think it was around 2016, it was 2016, it might have been June or July of 2016, I locked myself out of my Black Spit account on bodybuilding.com on purpose. I was just frustrated with the place and tired of the place. And I thought if I locked myself out on purpose that I wouldn't come back. If I wasn't able to use the account that I'd had for 14 years at that point, that I just wouldn't come back. Well, that lasted 2 or 3 months. And then I came back and I actually had so successfully locked myself out that even bodybuilding.com couldn't get me back in. And so I started a new account. The name was Drew Darden. Drew Darden was the name of a fictional character that some people know from previous Q&As that I do some writing. I had a short story that I had written at the time where the main character was a middle grade, maybe a 13, 14-year-old kid named Drew Darden. So, I adopted that name as my username on bodybuilding.com until they shut the forums down, I guess, a couple years ago now. So that's Drew Darden and that's Jeremy Stevens, and now you know. Poppy Chulo says, he had a question about education. He wants to know what's going on with these kids and these educational outcomes that he keeps hearing about. It's a multi-pronged issue that's going on. When you hear about issues with standardized testing where kids are failing to score competently in reading and other areas, other academic areas. We've got a few different issues going on. Some of that is related to COVID, and I know people are tired of hearing about it, but the kids at these age groups are kids who came in at a very specific time, and they grew up with a very specific set of circumstances that a lot of kids prior to that did not have to face. And there are other societal things going on too. I think that there's too much of a dependence on technology, and I think that's pretty widely accepted. I'm not breaking any news when I say that kids are too likely to be spending time on their iPads and their iPhones than they are to be out playing with other kids and reading books and doing some of the other things that kids have done for generations. One thing that, and I think I might have mentioned this in another Q&A, but when I was doing my EDS degree, I remember reading a couple of research papers at the time, and this was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago now. So some of this research might be a little outdated, but I doubt it. There was some research coming out that, and I haven't read it in a few years, so I'm a little murky on the exact details. But I do know that there were some studies that showed that kids retain information much better when it comes from a physical format. So if they're reading a textbook or if they're writing with their hands with a pencil, they retain information better than if they learn it on a computer or through a computer screen. And part of that might just be that things are so quick on social media. I mean, if you learn a fact on Instagram, are you going to remember that as well as if you had gotten all the context and read a whole book? That's probably at least part of it. But anyway, those are just a few small things that are going on. there's a lot of research when it comes to early education and the lower kind of elementary grades about how physical play is key in learning and the development of the brain and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of kids these days just aren't getting as much of that physical play as they used to because, again, they're sitting around with the iPad. So if it feels like I'm blaming technology to a large degree, I am. And some of it has to do with, multiple parents at home just being busy, and it's easier to give the kid an iPad than it is to sit down at the dinner table because maybe the parents are exhausted from working all day. And to some people, that's going to sound like me giving them excuses or whatever. But it's a multifaceted approach. Do I think? And part of the question was, do I think the kids these days are just dumb? No, I don't. They're kids. They're just like the kids that I grew up with. They're just like me when I was that age. When they're at recess, they like to play football. They like to play basketball. They like to chase other kids around. They like to get dirty. I'm talking about the boys right now. But, I mean, they're just like the kids that I grew up with and just like the ones that I remember, just like my kids when they were growing up. They just have a different set of circumstances. And I think we've got problems with the technology and the way that we're allowing kids to interact with it, but hopefully we'll figure that out. Something I was thinking about the other day is that once upon a time when I was a kid, and a lot of you guys might not be old enough to remember this on the forums, but when I was a kid, everywhere you went, people were smoking cigarettes. I mean, just everywhere, every restaurant you went to, gas stations, people would be smoking cigarettes outside of the gas station, right there near flammable gasoline and all that. And kids in high schools, everybody was just smoking cigarettes. And I understand that now it's more of a vape thing than it was cigarettes back then. But my point is, we rejected the cigarettes largely as a society, and we realized that there was a problem, and we started to turn against people smoking cigarettes. So maybe that can give us some hope that when we, as a society, realize the dangers of too much technology and how it's kind of encroaching into our lives too much, maybe we can take steps to fix some of those problems as we go forward, like we did with cigarettes. Maybe. Moving on. Oh, Papi Chulo again. He wants to know, do I do cardio? Yes, I do cardio. I just finished a 15-plus week cut where I was, at the end, I was doing 60 minutes of cardio. I do AM cardio, fasted cardio before I eat breakfast. First thing I do, I get up, take a couple of vitamins or whatever, drink a little cup of coffee. And I'm talking drink it like in 10 seconds just to wake my brain up, just to down it. Come get on the bike and my baseline is 30 minutes of cardio every day. Like I said, I might, and I went long stretches where I even did not, when I had to lose mass quantities of weight, I was up to 90 minutes for long stretches of time. I've been up to 60 minutes for long stretches of time. But my baseline when I'm maintaining my weight, 30 minutes a day before breakfast. I do the you can see right here probably, recumbent bike. I buy that bike over and over and over again. It's the Marcy. It's cheap. It's $150 or something like that. I recommend it to anybody looking for a good piece of cardio equipment. I like the Marcy orange recumbent bike. You kind of sit back, lean back, do your cardio, play around on your phone. Your hands are free. It's not the hardest thing in the world, and it's not meant to be the hardest thing in the world. It's meant to be be a habit building and consistency building. It works for me. How much weight did I lose? At one point, I was as high as 392 pounds. My man, not good. It was not a good thing. I wasn't always fat. I went through this in another video, but I wasn't always fat. I was about kind of like I am now, up through my 20s, up until I was about 30. And I had been lifting. I worked as a personal trainer in my 20s. Around the time I turned 30, it's interesting, I was just speaking about cigarettes. I wasn't planning to say this, but I had been using, here in the South we call it dip, but smokeless tobacco, since I was about 15. Everybody that I knew, everybody that I grew up with, dipped tobacco growing up. Everybody that played football and was on the wrestling team and baseball team, basketball team, all that kind of stuff. Everybody, all the athletes, that's just what we did. And so anyway, the point is, I quit that around 30. And simultaneously, I started getting into powerlifting. And so I just kind of replaced the tobacco habit with a food habit. And I was getting into powerlifting anyway. So the weight on the bar kept going up, weight on my body kept going up. And one day I woke up a couple years after my last powerlifting meet in November, which was November 1st, 2014. A few years after that, probably around 2018, something like that, I woke up at 392 pounds. And I was afraid to go to bed every night because I was afraid that I wasn't going to wake up the next morning. And that was a kind of a terrifying period of time for me. Anyway, this morning I woke up at 197.6. So and just 2 weeks ago at the bottom end of my cut, I was 191 or something like that, 192. So I have essentially lost 200 pounds from the top. So I answered the question about smoking. I quit that 15. I'm 45 now. I'm about to be 46. Quit the tobacco 15 years ago. I don't drink. Never got into it. Never had much of an appetite for it. Not that I didn't drink a little bit like anybody when I was 20, 21, 22, whatever, more like 18, 19, 20, 21, but not a ton. I do drink caffeine. I drink quite a bit. I drink a pot of coffee every day, at least. And I drink a pre-workout, especially during the summer when I'm lifting weights in the morning. And my pre-workout, now I don't typically take like a pre-workout powder. I'll take like caffeine pills and mix in the amount of caffeine pills that I want to take with my creatine monohydrate. So if I'm taking 5 grams of creatine, and I might break open a couple capsules, 200 milligrams or 250 milligrams of caffeine into that and drink that pre-workout. Sometimes I'll use citrulline malate with it or something like that, just for kind of the pump effect. If during the school year, I do my cardio still in the morning, but I lift weights in the afternoons after school, usually around 5:30 or 6. That late in the afternoon, I'll probably do 100 milligrams of caffeine instead of the 200 or 300 milligrams that I would do first thing in the morning. So yeah, I drink caffeine. I really don't see a big issue with it. It doesn't. You'd have to show me a real good reason not to consume caffeine, and I haven't found that reason after all these years. Do I find that I have more energy from losing weight? It's more energy, and I think he asked if I was more. I didn't write it down, but maybe am I less apt to be stressed or whatever? I don't think it has done anything for stress or whatever, except for the fact that I'm not stressed out about the fact that I might have a heart attack and drop dead at the age of 45 or 50 years old. I don't have to stress about that as much, at least not as a result of my weight. I'm doing the things that. If I fell over of a heart attack right now, on camera, doing this Q&A, it wouldn't be because of my weight or because of my habits or because of my diet or anything like that, because I do the right things now. Generally, you could argue that I overdo some of it, but it is what it is. Do I have more energy? It's kind of a trade-off. I was fat, and I've always lifted weights. I don't know if I mentioned that a minute ago when I was talking about my trajectory over the years, but I lifted weights throughout all of that for 30 years. Started when I was 15, and so I had the energy to at least do that, and then go to work every day and work 9 to 5, depending on what I was doing for a job at the time. But yeah, having the energy at 392 pounds to walk, I remember one time my dad wanted me to go look at a property that he was buying, and it was basically up on top of a hill, so we kind of got out and walked uphill to this property. And me being 392 pounds walking up this hill, I had to stop a few times, and I was humiliated because, here's my dad, 20 years older than me, 25 years older than me, and, I couldn't keep up with him walking up this hill, even though I was supposed to be this power lifter or whatever. I knew I was too fat, but, I have more energy than that. I can go all day in terms of that, but being so mathematically precise with diet and cardio and working out and all that kind of stuff, and being right there on the level in terms of energy consumed versus how much is expended. I'm like I say, I do that with mathematical precision. Things that you don't really, that are unexpected, that pop up, like I made some videos about me playing dodgeball during summer school with my coworkers. Things like that. Yeah, I have more energy to do that kind of stuff, but guess what? When it comes time to lift later, I'm kind of depleted because I've taken in the right amount of nutrients for an hour and a half workout every day. Bottom line is, yeah, there's more energy, but it's not like some perfect thing where I feel like $1 million all the time. I'm a 45-year-old man with a bunch of white hair, so I mean, yeah, it's and I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make all this stuff work. So yeah, I still get worn out like anybody, even though I'm in good shape. I would argue that I'm in very good shape. My resting heart rate's quite low. I've measured it in the 40s before, and it's not even technically resting heart rate because I'll get up, go to the bathroom real quick, check my weight, track it, write it down, and then go sit down and check my heart rate. So it's technically not the second I wake up. It's after a couple minutes of getting up and walking around a little bit. But yeah, so I'm in good shape. That's one way to answer that question. All right, moving on to Marmalade. He wants to know, who the heck am I? Why do I keep making videos? And why do I look like this? I tried to get clarification on the why do I look like this part, but he didn't answer. So I'll just go ahead and answer it as is. Who am I? I already answered that. My name's Jeremy. I've been lifting weights for 30 years. I'm the longest tenured OG bodybuilding.comer, still posting today. February 18th of 2002 was when I signed up. And the only reason I didn't sign up, I was earlier than that, and they were open for a couple months before that. There were a couple people with some, as they say in the movie Donnie Brasco, fugazi start dates, join dates on the site. They were like 1999, September 1999, stuff like that, but that wasn't real. One of the oldest real join dates was Lane Norton, straight flexed, and he was like November of 2001. He was a couple months before me. Anyway, I started to say the reason why I wasn't earlier than that was because I was member of a couple of other different sites. Elite Bodybuilding was one of them. Anabolics, ANABOLEX was a popular one, and one called IBCOF, International Bodybuilding Cooperative Federation, something like that. And so I just kind of saw bodybuilding.com as like I don't know, I was kind of elitist about it. I saw that as like a generic kind of site that probably wouldn't be around for very long. So, but anyway, once I figured out that was probably not going to be the case, a couple months later, I signed up, in February of 2002. Anyway, who am I? My name's Jeremy, lifting weights for 30 years. I have lost 200 pounds, and I'm the longest tenured lifter from bodybuilding.com, still around today posting with you dorks. And why do I keep making videos? Man, the first video that I posted was, when YouTube was probably brand new. I'm talking like 2006, whenever it was around. I remember it was my first 405 deadlift with a buddy of mine who was just back from the Navy. I was 25, 26. I was born in 1980. My first 405 deadlift, I remember I was wearing this corny Adidas baby blue shorts with the dark navy blue stripes on them, and probably corny shoes too. Probably, who knows, Adidas, I don't know. And so that was I posted my first lifting video, and when in 2005, 2006, I took that account down years ago and started a new one several years back. But yeah, I've just been posting videos for 20 years. So it is what it is. Why do I look like this? I asked for clarification on that because why do I look like an old man? Why am I bald? Why am I ugly? Why am I jacked? Have I reached a status of being jacked yet? Why am I fat? Who knows? What was your intention with that question? Why do I look like this? I'm very intentional about the way I look, the way that I want to look right now. I'm I'm 197 pounds, relatively lean. I've got some muscle on my frame. I want to keep improving and look more. I would like to be more jacked and carry a little bit more muscle on my frame than I have now. But otherwise I look this way through intentionality. Marmalade. LA Hipster 1, always with incredible questions. I love this guy's questions. What do I think about winners and losers? What do I think about that attitude? Do I think that people are lucky, or do I think that people work hard? How did he put it? Or is it some middle ground where hard work meets opportunity? Great questions. Do I think money solves 90% of problems like LA Hipster does? And he wants to know about role models too. Let's start with the winners and the losers and the money. I'm going to tell you something about me that will help explain my mentality. When I was a kid, my dad moved us from West Virginia to Nashville, Tennessee. And if you know anything about country music, from West Virginia down to Tennessee might be a big clue. I don't know. I'm just saying about who my dad is. West Virginia down to Tennessee. Let's just say he's one of the most iconic musicians and songwriters, over a period of 5 decades from the 80s to now. And so what I witnessed as a child was a person who came from nothing. Real simple. Nothing. West Virginia. Ever been to West Virginia? There's nothing. There's nothing there. I don't want to be rude to the people from West Virginia, but there's not a whole lot going on, okay? His choices were coal mines or get the hell out of Dodge, pretty much. So he got the hell out of Dodge and is recognized as one of the greats at what he does by his peers. And so as a child, seeing that, it changed the way that it meant everything in the way that I view the world. So some people think that I'm a misker that's very strange because I'm not negative like a lot of the people on the forums. You're not going to find me, calling people names on the forums. You're not going to find me being a racist on the forums. It's just that's not me. My mentality was informed by seeing a person come from nothing and make his way into something and become something. So I just never, now I'm not, have not achieved the level of professional success, at least in terms of critical acclaim that my dad has. My brother did and has. But I'm happy with what I have done. I'm happy with what my wife and I have done. We both get to do jobs that we chose to do. We chose these careers. We chose what we do, and we've been very smart with our money, and we've been, made good decisions, and as a result, we have a nice house, we have nice cars, we live in a great neighborhood. I have nice stuff. And again, I'm generally happy. So, I guess, if your question is, winners and losers, I think that the opportunity is out there in America, in the United States of America. The opportunity is there if you are willing to start a thing, work hard through it, see that thing through. I think success is on the other side of it. And even if it's not the success that you planned, but I think that too many people are not willing to put in the effort or make the requisite sacrifices to be successful. And it depends on what your idea of success is. So that might lead me to your next question, which was, what do I think about? Oh, by the way, you asked about luck. Let me tell you this. My dad would tell you that there is some luck involved because he just can't conceptualize how he gets to come from nothing and become something the way that he did without there being some sort of luck involved. And I think it's probably closer to what you think, which is hard work meets opportunity. I read Kobe Bryant's book. I'm a big reader. I read Kobe Bryant's book, The Mamba Mentality. And my dad is more like Kobe Bryant, and my brother probably more like Kobe Bryant than in their own fields, different fields, than they would even know. I doubt. I bought them both that book for Christmas or Father's Day or some other such thing, birthdays or something at some point. I don't know if they ever read them or not, but they're like that. When you obsess over something and you work and 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 work for years, for decades, something is going to happen. And even if it's not the thing that you expected, even if it's not what you anticipated, something's going to happen. And anyway, yes, I think hard work meets opportunity. And I do believe that success is available for anyone in America or probably in most of the Western world, most of the civilized. And I don't mean that to say that only Western civilization is civilized. I'm just saying in most of the civilized world, there are third world countries where I'm not sure that success is available to the majority of people. I haven't lived there, so I don't know, but I suspect that the opportunities here are greater than most. Role models. What do I think about? And do I think money solves 90% of problems? No, I don't. My wife and I make an incredible amount of money for the jobs that we do. I probably make a whole lot more than most people think a teacher would make. I probably make a whole lot more because teachers get paid based on the level of degrees that they have and their experience. And I have the second highest degree. So I've told you guys before, but I have a bachelor's degree in special education, a master's degree in English language learning, teaching English language learning, which is ironic since I can't say it, teaching English language learning. And I have an EDS degree in teaching and learning. So the highest, the degree above that would be a doctor of education or a PhD. And I don't have that, but I'm the second highest pay scale. And my wife makes 250% more money than I do. So for the types of jobs that we do, we make quite a bit of money. And in terms of happiness, when our kids were little, and even if we didn't like our jobs, and even if we didn't love our jobs, we'll put it like that, I would argue that we were happier. Well, not that we were happier, because we're happy today. I would argue that we were just as happy when the kids were little, and we didn't have a third or a fourth of. Let me think about this. There were times where we were making 20% of the money that we're making now. In the early days, we were renting, and we had little kids, and my jobs kind of sucked, and but we were happy, and it wasn't about the money. We weren't dead broke, getting thrown out and living under a bridge kind of broke, but we were, for years, we were week to week, month to month, scraping by, and we were happy. Role models for today versus today's role models. I couldn't tell you much about today's role models, to be honest with you. My role models were the same as yours. My dad was the big one. But besides my dad, like you, Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, those were my role models growing up. That was who I wanted to be, like He-Man, I don't think that they're getting that kind of masculine role model in 2026 like we were back then. I am determined. He says, what body fat percentage do I think I am? At the end of the cut, here's the problem. It's kind of hard to gauge exactly, because I did lose 200 pounds. So there is parts of my body that don't look quite right. The skin is very thick, and there's too much of it, and there's some left over. And if I'm feeling frisky, I might make the picture of me at the end of the cut when I was kind of depleted and I was 191, 192 pounds with a double bicep with my shirt off. Here I'm standing right 2 feet away from where I'm at right now in front of the sauna. I might make that the thumbnail picture for this Q&A, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I feel like putting myself out there quite like that. But if I did, you would see that you can see. I mean, all my abs are deep. Again, I've got too much extra skin, and it makes things look a little funny, especially near where the chest, and where my chest and my lats would be when I've got my arms up. But you can see that I'm lean. I mean, visually, I probably look to be about 10% body fat with my shirt off. But I hesitate to say this, but it might have been a little bit leaner than that. It might have been 7, 8, 9% body fat. But it's hard to know that for sure since my body's not quite right. So take that for what it is. I'm going to say 10%, but it could have feasibly been a little bit lower than that. Oh, I didn't. My wife, when I went to the restroom, I'm going to cover up her name. My wife wrote me a little note when I went to the bathroom because I told her I was going to come out here and make a little YouTube video. So she wrote me a little note with a little heart on it. And we've been married for 25 years, so that was nice of her. Yeah, that's it, man. So this one was 10 minutes shorter than the last one. I didn't get quite as many questions this time. So good to talk to you guys. And I'll probably do another one next week. And I'll probably do another one the week after that if I keep getting questions. But after that, I might drop off for a while because the school year is going to be starting back up. And I'll be back to work, and my mental energies and my actual time will be more devoted to getting back to work. So anyway, good to talk to you guys. Bye.